All right. Well, thank you so much, Lynn, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. As Lynn introduced me, my name is David Testerman, and I'm a managing partner and one of the founders of BrokerHunter.com. I'll be your host for today's presentation. Today's topic is apparently very timely, as we did a quick review of our registration list just prior to the call going live, and we have over 250 different firms represented on this call today. And with just some quick math, we figured out that it was well over 10,000 branch offices represented. So we're very excited about this today. But I would like to personally welcome each of you. And this presentation is going to be right at 30 minutes, the formal part. And we'll move right along here. But before we get started, I do want to let you know we will be having a question and answer session at the very end. This is always informative, and it's going to be a great chance for you to ask any questions you have. I'll do my very best to answer them. But the way you're going to ask a question is you're going to go and click on the chat pane, and you can ask questions via that way on your webinar toolbar. If I don't get to all of them at the end, then we will be answering any questions via email at the end of the presentation. I also wanted to let you know each of you that are attending today will receive a copy of our new white paper, The Branch Manager's Ultimate Playbook to Recruiting Financial Advisors. It's going to go do a deep dive into each of these topics, have a lot of good information there as well. However, on this call today, I wanted to give you all some actionable recruiting tips that you can begin implementing for your branch office right now. And at the end of this presentation, I'm also going to tell you about something very exciting that Broker Hunter is launching today that's going to help you and your branch recruit financial advisors. So prior to the call, we sent out a survey, and based upon this survey, that right at 75% of you said that right now you're experiencing a moderate to severe shortage of qualified financial advisors. I think the other 25% just forgot to ask or answer the question. But many of you may be wondering, why is this happening? Well, we sat down and we've really identified 5 big obstacles that we see right now that are causing a real shortage right now. The first obstacle is this. You simply have a shrinking industry headcount. Many of you may know this, but did you know that 43% of financial advisors right now are over the age of 55? As a matter of fact, 12,000 to 16,000 financial advisors are anticipated to be retiring every year for the next 10 years. So needless to say, that's creating an incredible shortage right now in the industry of reps, and it's actually a shrinking headcount. Slide number, or the next biggest obstacle we see is really just the technology shift itself. Our online culture certainly has changed very rapidly. We've had new recruiting sources and social media and all of that. And what that's done is it has simply changed our culture and the way we go online, period. And recruiting is changing very rapidly along with this. But the recruiting techniques a lot of times are lagging way behind this shift. Another big obstacle here, I'm going to stay on this same slide, is an increased cost of recruiting. Many of you see this firsthand, but compensation packages right now for the most elite FA and FA teams are right now around 300% of gross production. So, very, very high level and high cost to recruit these people, and not a lot of firms can play at this level. So, and even those that can, oftentimes that's not enough to really kick them over the edge. So, anyhow, definitely a big cost to recruiting right now. Next slide here is you have fierce competition in the industry. Thought this was kind of interesting, but you all may know that you have roughly around 4,146 active FINRA firms, but the number of branch offices these represent is actually staggering. Right now, FINRA recognizes 160,573 branch offices. This doesn't even include the 40,000 RIAs that are competing for a lot of this same talent. So needless to say, the competition out there is fierce for this remaining talent that's in the industry. And then last but not least, you have really a lack of training going on. It's been going on for a long time, but training is simply not keeping up with industry attrition. Also, training is very expensive. We've seen figures as high as $250,000 to $300,000 to train a new FA and put them all the way through a program. This number here is not even taking into account the over 50% failure rate for financial advisor trainees. So these are some big obstacles, but just for time's sake, let me say this. Recruiting financial advisors is not going to get any easier, and the cost for recruiting these same financial advisors are not going to come down anytime soon. But with that, there's a lot of opportunity. So I want to have you all take a look around you. Do any of you see any empty desks? Well, based upon the survey we took, the same survey, by the way, that we took before the webinar, we received a response back almost immediately from 125 branch managers to let us know that on average, these 125 branch managers each had 10 financial advisor positions they would like to fill in their office right now, with right at an average gross production of right at $140,000. So based just upon this information right there, these branch managers are looking on average for $1.4 million in gross production just for their office. You'll have to do the math for your own office based upon your average gross production, but I would be willing to bet that this number in itself probably has your attention. At Broker Hunter, we believe ultimately the battle for financial advisors is going to be won or lost at the local level. As a matter of fact, over the last 15 years, we've worked with literally hundreds of corporate recruiting offices, and a lot of them feel the same way because no matter how wonderful a job at the corporate level recruiting departments can do, it's really almost impossible to cover the whole country, and so it's very important that the branches are involved as well. So you're going to have to do some of this recruiting yourself. And you're probably thinking right now, how in the world am I going to compete with all of the competition out there on this playing field? Well, this is one of the reasons why we're launching our new branch pack program at the end of this presentation. But we want you as a branch to realize that you have a couple of huge, tremendous advantages in your favor. First of all, no matter how big of a firm you're with, you could have hundreds of offices. Your branch office is like no others. Your culture, your team, your location ultimately is why somebody's going to come and join your team, all things being equal. Secondly, you have the ability to know your local market far better than anybody else, and so you have the ability to be much more nimble in your recruiting than somebody from afar can be. So definitely some advantages there for you. So we're going to dive right in here to some key plays because I know that's a lot of you want to get some tips here today, and I'm going to give you some. But we've broken down this tip section into three major categories that we think we call them the cornerstones of branch recruiting, and each of these are very, very important with a branch recruiting campaign. So in the same survey that we indicated a couple times here already, we asked a few questions here, and it looks like, most of you to some degree are hitting one or two of these in some ways, but certainly based on these stats that, there's a lot of work to be done still. But so the first one we're going to talk about here is referrals. And right here we're seeing that 50% of you right now have an employee referral program in place. That's awesome. However, the glaring thing is that 50% of you right now don't. And this is the first thing you really should do before you do anything else in any recruiting campaign, because any study you almost across any industry will show that you're almost always going to have the best and most immediate source for your hires by implementing this first. So I'm going to assume you have an employee referral program in place for these purposes, and we're going to go here to some quick tips you can get. And some of these are very basic, but we're going to start at the beginning and kind of work from there. So first tip number one is get a list. And what do I mean by a list? Is you need a list of all of the FINRA licensed reps in your area, the entire universe, and you need to get that so that you know who your market is and your target market. By the way, this list is something we're going to provide in our new branch pack membership at the end of this program. But once you have this list, and it needs to be current, you're going to want to sit down and actually meet with your financial advisors. I would actually do it one-on-one and go over the list with them. And what you're going to want to find out, again, some of this is pretty basic, but, previous work history, what firm they've come from, but also what reps in your area that they know they've worked with that would be a good cultural fit, doing the right type of business. They're going to know your culture, and they're going to know more than likely quite a few people that would be high probability prospects for you. Once you have those prospects, now you need to begin planning a strategy to reach out and touch them both online and off. Tip number 3, probably could have flip-flopped these two, but you need to make sure the incentive rewards for your team are worthwhile. It's going to be hard to get a high producing financial advisor to probably get excited about a gift certificate to a restaurant or some kind of a gift like that. So, only you know your own culture, but make sure it reflects something of value to them so that they'll go out and put a feeler out and make some calls and some introductions for you. And experts will say it doesn't always have to be money, but we say this with a smiley face that most of these have probably never met commission-only financial advisors. So, keep that in mind. But you know your culture and what will work. So, again, just want to make sure you make it attractive. Again, once you've identified these prospective recruits, though, now the work begins because you're going to want to network with them both offline and on. And we're going to get to the online portion in a bit because this is where it gets pretty powerful. But for now, just that would be a good stopping point. Tip number 4, we can throw this out on all of them actually, consistency. It's going to permeate everything you do in recruiting. So you're going to want to formalize this process. We see a lot of people with referral programs. You have a big kickoff. You get excited. You get some momentum. And then there's no follow-on. So, what you'll have to do here is to come up with a cadence that, certainly is not overdoing it with your reps, but you want to make sure that, quarterly, let's say, would be a good starting point, that you want to kind of get back in front of your advisors and say, hey, we're still looking for people, have you heard anything? Just to keep that regularity and consistency. Best example of consistency that's non-recruiting is, we all probably bought a gym membership back in January, and now that we're into late March, that we all may not be being as consistent as we want. So that's probably a good way to look at this. So anyhow, basically, just use these tools and use them consistently. Next cornerstone we're going to look at, I'm going to actually skip here because we're going to do networking last, but we're going to go into advertising real quick, and this is probably something that most of you are, based on the survey, it looks only about 30% of you right now are doing anything, what we call online job postings and online advertising of any kind. But most of you are probably thinking right now, job postings, online advertising, it doesn't work for financial advisors, never will. Well, and many of you probably tried to run job postings or other forms of online media in the past, and you didn't get any applicants or any, I have this in quotation mark, resumes. But, I would say by that measure, if that's the measure of saying something works or not, that would be absolutely correct. They do not do a good job like they do on other positions of driving quote-unquote applicants. But that traditional definition of works is actually wrong because the one big reason you're going to advertise for FA opportunities is not necessarily to drive applications or resumes, but you're doing it for reasons that many of you don't, outside of the marketing world, even know exist. And I'm going to go to our next slide here. See, the Internet forever changed buying behavior. About 10 years ago, buying behavior flip-flopped entirely. And I'm not going to bore you all with a bunch of marketing buzz, but there's one concept when it comes to online advertising that you have to grasp, and you'll be well on your way to understanding why you want to do this. And that concept's called the zero moment of truth, and we actually have it ZMOT here on this slide, and that's the shorthand for that. But what happened is the vast majority of people are Internet savvy, and studies have proven that on purchasing decisions that at least 80% of any purchasing decision is now made prior to any contact with a company of any kind. Now, that's at least 80%. In a lot of cases, entire business models, 100% of a purchasing decision has been made prior to any type of contact at all with the company. So think about this. You probably do it every day in your online buying behavior. You're doing research, you're looking, you're doing product research, you're checking reviews. This flips the buying cycle totally online, and it happened literally almost overnight, at least in business terms. It's about a 5 or 10 year period, and it just completely changed. So you're sitting here saying, well, what does, online purchasing have to do with recruiting? Well, in this case, it actually has everything, because when it comes to recruiting financial advisors, you need to understand that you're not actually recruiting. Many of you probably know this on a subconscious level, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You're selling. Top financial advisors do not need you, and they certainly don't need a job. We call these people in the recruiting world, we call them the ultimate passive candidates. They also call them purple squirrels, which is that tells you how rare they are. But, think about this. When you're recruiting an experienced financial advisor, you're actually selling someone that has considerable talents and a considerable client base on why they should partner with you. So once you start to look at it through this lens, you'll start to understand, the way that today's recruiting market's working and why you need to advertise. So here's the problem that many of you have right now that you may not even be aware that you have until now, is that the candidates you're seeking, that you're wanting to bring into your firm, probably, or in a lot of cases, may have already made up at least 80% of their minds about you before you ever even talk to them. So here's some quick tips for you all to start winning the zero moment of truth and not letting a lack of information out there about you, or even worse, your competition, define you. So these are real simple here, okay? Number one, you need to advertise your opportunities somewhere. And I actually tell clients that I'm getting to a point where we certainly hope it's with us and we feel like we have a great product at Broker Hunter, but I would rather you be somewhere than nowhere. It's really that important in developing an effective online presence. So it just so happens to be that when we're talking in job boards and stuff, that job postings just happen to be a very inexpensive way of building an online presence, but there's a lot of other things you can do as well. The costs go up, but they're all very important to do. So anyhow, for these purposes, you just want to have a presence somewhere. Number two, we could call this section no boring job descriptions. And basically, you don't want to do that. I know in some cases you have to, but you don't ever want to put duties and responsibilities as part of a job description for these folks. Remember, you're selling your branch, and you're going to need to work within the confines of what we're able to do through compliance and everything, but you need to sell your unique selling proposition, and this is why somebody would want to come work for your branch, period. That's what they need to see, not what they're going to do when they get there. They already know what they're going to do when they get there. Tip number three is a quick one. You want to make it very easy for these experienced people to contact you. You don't want to make them hit an apply button if you're posting a job, or make them fill out a landing page form and asking a bunch of questions, and you certainly don't want to send them through an applicant tracking system, which is an online career site thing, if you can help it. Now, I know in some cases you can't, but again, you always want to give alternate contacts so people can jump out. These top candidates just simply won't do it. And then last but not least, consistency. If you have openings for your office, you can never, ever stop advertising. You need to be somewhere. And there's a lot of reasons we're going to get into with our branch pack members on why, and it's about building SEO and organic search and all kinds of things we won't bore you with right now, but just know that it's very, very important. And by the way, online advertising is something that's taken care of in our new branch pack program we're going to be launching at the end here. So anyhow, we're going to jump into the last section here, which is certainly networking. And most of you, I will say this, and we've worked with certainly a lot of you, most of you do a great job of the offline networking part of this, and some of you could probably do a webinar on that yourself. As a matter of fact, that's how most financial advisors build their high net worth book of clients. So keep up the good work on the offline. Just make sure you're applying the same principles that you use to pursuing the multi-million-dollar client with your multi-million-dollar producer, and you'll be on the right path. You got to nurture them along just like that. But here's what the stats show is that 65% of you on the call today do not use social media at all for your online networking piece. And I know there's a lot of various social media platforms out there, and they kind of come and go, and, one gets hot and they can become the latest rage. But for our purposes, there is one that stands way above the rest for recruiting and connecting with financial advisors, and that one's LinkedIn. So we like to tell everybody that if you're not on LinkedIn right now and you're a branch manager recruiting or a professional out there recruiting, you need to run and not walk, but run to your desk when we're done and go ahead and start getting on LinkedIn today. It's free. I mean, the LinkedIn account, the basic one, is free, and it's all you need to get started. But here's an interesting stat. Right now, there are just over 180,000 financial advisors on LinkedIn right now. Out of the total universe of financial advisors, I mean, that is a lot of, more than half. And most right now are using this platform to research and prospect for high net worth individuals. And apparently, although that's getting out of our expertise, it's a pretty good place to do that from what I hear. But this is a tremendous opportunity. for a manager or a recruiting professional to connect and network with them for recruiting purposes. But there's a few tips here you need to get started on LinkedIn. First of all, you want to make sure you build, and again, we're going to start at the beginning. When you go to LinkedIn, you need to, put a professional picture of yourself, and you want to build out a complete profile. Don't fill out a quick one. I mean, take your time on this. A lot of the details in this are searchable, and it's part of building out your profile. Once you've done that, you want to start connecting with your advisors in your office, colleagues they know, other people and professionals you work with in the industry that you know firsthand. This takes a little bit of time, but you can do it fairly quickly. Again, consistency here is huge, but you need to do that, as soon as you get your profile built out. And then tip number 3 is you want to join groups, okay? And we think this is a pretty powerful start. We happen to own 2 groups. One's called the Financial Services Career Center, and the other is the Broker Hunter Group. And just to show you the power of LinkedIn, we actually have 105,000 financial services people that are members of our groups, and that's probably how a lot of you found your way to the call today. And these people are ones that are wanting to hear about career opportunities and networking within in the industry. So that shows you right there the power of doing this. This, by the way, is a huge component of our new branch pack program we're launching at the end of this presentation, and it's very exciting. And there's a lot to it. I mean, once you get beyond this, there is, we're getting into, how do you become a center of influence, and how do you start lead nurturing your connections, and that's where the strategy comes in. And this is really your eventual end game on LinkedIn, is you want to become, a local center of influence in your area. There's still opportunity to do that on LinkedIn. We do not see a lot of people doing that yet. A year from now, it'll be a lot busier. But you have the opportunity right now to really jump in there and do this. And again, I don't have time to go into deep detail on this, but we're going to be teaching our branch pack members exactly how to do this and helping them with this. But just a quick takeaway on this is once you connect with somebody, treat them like you do you're courting a high net worth client. The first email is not a recruiting email. You want to just groom and nurture them. We tell people don't over contact, spam, or abuse your connections. Be creative. You want to give them something that's valuable to them that FAs would find interesting, perhaps in your area, and this is something that, kind of always be thinking that it's something you can give them and not asking for something in return, especially in the beginning. You'll get the opportunity to do that down the road. So anyhow, there's just some real quick tips here. I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of information that we dive into deeper on the white paper you all are going to receive. And, I'll give you some details on how to get that. But, I hope you all picked up a few tips that, maybe you aren't doing right now, or hopefully at the very least it reinforces your current recruiting strategy. And we're going to do a deeper dive again in the white paper on this. But now I would like to tell you all about the new service you heard me mention a couple times back there in the presentation. And we're launching this service actually right now. But before I tell you about this, I want to let you know that we understand and have been doing this for 15 years, that the recruiting landscape right now has become very complex. And quite frankly, it's pretty intimidating for a lot of branch offices, I think. We also know that as a branch manager, your time is precious, and very few have the time to do this on their own. But before I tell you about the new program, let me ask you this. What if you had all of the tools you needed to recruit for your local market just bundled together, just everything you needed to get started? But more importantly, what if you had the expertise and the knowledge to use them? I think that would be the thing that for many of you would find invaluable. So this is why I'd like to now proudly announce our new branch pack membership program, and there's actually nothing else like this in the entire recruiting universe. Broker Hunters developed this program specifically to partner with branch offices, and we're going to give you the tools and, more importantly, the knowledge to win your local recruiting game. But let me tell you real quick about the tools you're going to get, and you all will probably remember the chart we showed you back earlier, the 3 cornerstones of branch recruiting. Well, we're going to give you tools that cover these 3 important channels, and I'm going to jump into those real quick here. We've got the ad pack, and this is going to take care of your advertising component to help you start building an online presence. And that's going to include full access to the Broker Hunter site with job postings, resume search, all the bells and whistles basically we have, as well as cross-posting your positions to Indeed and the big job aggregators, which gives you maximum visibility for your office. And this is going to help you begin building your online presence. We have another product or another service we're offering with this called the Data Pack. And long story short, this is the list on steroids. We actually have a list of all 670,000 FINRA licensed reps. We maintain it monthly and update it. We're going to give you with this package at no charge a 30-mile radius around your branch office. We want you to have the most up-to-date data you can get in literally everybody in your universe, because we're going to use this data to leverage and run recruiting campaigns off of it. This data is updated monthly at no charge. If you already have data, well, we're going to give it to you again so you can update your list. So anyhow, that comes with this. And then last but not least, we have something called our Net Pack, which is, long story short, this is the networking piece. We're going to give you, our members, full access to linking in with us and joining our groups, to our 105,000 people in our groups, where you can link to our groups, post jobs, you can start discussions, you can engage with your community, and more importantly, we're going to help you leverage those contacts so you can start building your own network. If I was just going to go and a la carte these and doing competitive analysis, this, if you were in New York City or Chicago, just these products with nothing else would cost close to $22,000 annually. Even if you went to one of the general job sites, the advertising and resume search alone would a lot of times be right around $10,000 a year just for a branch office. But I'm going to take this a step further, because we're going to give you something that is not found out there anywhere else in addition with these tools. But first, I'm going to give you the same advice that you've been giving to your clients for your entire careers, and it's the knowledge that's valuable, not the actual products. So if you're going to win the battle in the coming years, it's not going to be because you have the latest whiz-bang recruiting tool. Just like your clients aren't going to win their retirement battle by having the newest mutual fund. We asked, do you know why your high net worth clients chose to work with you and your firm? Because many of them are smart enough to know that they don't have all the answers when it comes to investing, and nor do they have the time to find them. That's why these people are usually so successful, by the way. You're going to need a coach in this landscape, and you're going to need one now to help you navigate the new financial recruiting market. And I would like to now introduce you to what we consider the most valuable part of the entire Branch Pack program, the Broker Hunter University. And we've developed the most comprehensive training curriculum in existence for financial advisor recruiting. Our Branch Pack members are going to get to leverage Broker Hunter's 15 years of leading-edge digital recruitment experience. In addition to that, we've teamed up with Peter Wed to help us launch a formal Broker Hunter University curriculum that's like nothing else out there. And so many of you have probably never heard of Peter Wed, and you're wondering who in the world this is. Well, if you're not in the HR recruiting world, then this name's probably going to be completely foreign to you. But let me say this. Peter literally wrote the book on online recruiting. He's actually written about 24 of them at last count. So with that introduction, I'd like to now welcome Peter, and he's going to tell you all about the curriculum that we have in store for you over the coming year. Peter, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Dave. I'd like to add my welcome to all of you to the program. As Dave mentioned, we've put together a curriculum in the Broker Hunter University that's designed to help you recruit the best talent out there in your field. Now, the training is based on a single premise that's both simple and ironclad. It goes like this. What you do to recruit the best talent will also recruit mediocre talent, but the converse is not true. In other words, if you design your strategy and your tactics for the average financial advisor, for the generic candidate, that's exactly who you will recruit. But if you tailor your strategy and tactic to the unique attributes of those top financial advisors, then you'll be able to recruit them as well as everybody else. So this particular training program is comprehensive. It covers all aspects of a multifaceted campaign for top financial advisors. It's state-of-the-art, and it's specifically designed for people who aren't recruiters, who have a lot of other important things to do in their day, who want to know what will work best and work most efficiently. So we're going to begin by talking about what are the attributes that top financial advisors bring to the marketplace. How are they different, and how can we leverage those differences in order to connect with them in a way that the competition can't. then we're going to talk about a whole series of tactics that you can use to reach out to this talent. For example, in session number 3, we're going to talk about recruitment advertising and job postings on the web. And as David said, they are a proven tool for recruiting even the most passive, high-caliber talent out there. But you have to realize that these guys have unique attributes. Almost all of them are always employed. So what does that mean? That means that in order to recruit them, we have to convince them to do the one thing that we humans most hate to do, change. We have to convince them to go from the devil they know, their current employer, their current boss, their current commute, to the devil they don't know, your organization, a new boss, a different commute. You can't do that with a job posting with all of the appeal of a brick. And that's the problem with most job postings today. They're a modern medical miracle. They're a cure for insomnia in 500 words or less. So what we're going to talk about in that particular session is the content, the structure, and the format of a job posting that will not only pique the curiosity of top financial performers, but will also engage them in a way that will get them to stop and consider your value proposition as an employer. We're going to talk about other things. We're going to talk about, for example, networking on the web. As Dave mentioned, there are all kinds of social media platforms out there, but unfortunately, they have all convinced folks today that the way that you use these social media platforms is as a contact sport. You build up the greatest number of friends and followers and connections you can, and that's how you make these platforms work for you. Well, another attribute of the best talent is that they listen to their mother. What was the first lesson that your mother taught you? Don't speak to strangers. So the probability that they're going to pay attention to some message that comes winging through LinkedIn for the first time from a stranger is slim and none. So the whole focus of that particular session is how you build familiarity and trust, the pillars of a relationship with these people, and you do so in the blink of an eye. In other words, networking on the web is not a contact sport. It's actually a team sport. It's how you build a relationship with someone who really isn't interested in changing devils. And then we're going to move on to more advanced topics. We're going to talk about how you have to optimize the candidate experience. Another attribute of the best talent is that they're smart consumers. They don't take the representations, particularly that organizations make over the web, at face value. They want to test drive the products and services, the new opportunities, the value propositions of employers that they're told about online. Now, you can test drive a car, you can test drive a television set, but you can't test drive an employer. So what does the best talent do? What do these high-performing financial advisors look for? They want to create a surrogate, and that surrogate is your recruiting process. They believe that the way that you treat them in your recruiting process is likely to be the way they're going to be treated as an employee. So it's very important that you align your organization's employment brand. What's your culture, what's your values? You align those statements with what happens to them once they enter your recruiting process. So we'll talk about those kinds of strategies and tactics as well. And then finally, we'll get into some really advanced capabilities, how you can, for example, probe into LinkedIn without having to buy the expensive recruitment sheets, how you can use special data mining techniques to get into LinkedIn and really find people that LinkedIn doesn't want to show you unless you spend the big bucks on a recruiting seat with them. So the program, again, is designed to be comprehensive. Every aspect of recruiting strategy and tactics, it's state-of-the-art. But most importantly, to come back to the point I made in the beginning, it's not designed to turn you into a recruiter. It's designed to give you the tools that you can use in the midst of doing all the other important things that you have to do on your job or in your job, so that you can not only attract the interest of the best talent, but you can also recruit them. Dave, I'll send it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter, and we're very excited about this. We've worked together on this for a long time, and we feel like this is going to be a curriculum that has no peer. So, Peter, but when you're going through all this, I know everybody's on mute, but I can sense the branch managers on this call completely panicking because they think we're going to make them go to class every month. But actually, you don't need to worry about that. We're actually going to give you, for your branch office with this program, 2 training slots because the first homework assignment that a busy branch manager is going to have to do, that we're going to make you do when you first sign up for this, is you're going to assign all or a portion of this to somebody else in your office that we can work with to do this. This information we're going to go over is too important to miss. But somebody from your office needs to attend it, but we're not going to necessarily make you. We're also going to be recording it, and it's going to be on demand, so you're going to be able to listen to this training after we do it live and listen to it at your own pace, and we're going to archive it for a year for you as well to go back and refer to. The most important thing here, though, is this, and just like you don't do with your clients, we're not going to give you the information fire hose treatment. We've actually condensed this down into real actionable training segments that you can use to build a foundation for success long term, and you can do it step by step. So, that's it. This is going to be our new branch pack, and we're going to give you the tools and the knowledge to help you begin to dominate your local recruitment market. We like to sum it up down here and use this quote is, you don't have to outrun the grizzly bear. You just have to outrun your friend. And so that analogy is probably good, is, you don't need to know everything. You just need to know more than the local competition does so you can start outrunning them today. So before I get into the cost real quick, and I know we're getting on time and a lot of you are firing in some great questions, but let me ask you a couple things here. What if you took this training and you picked up one little tip this year in all of this training that helped you land your next producer or a whole team? But what if we could teach you over the next year or so on how to fill and keep your entire office filled? We think that would be pretty valuable for a lot of you. So this program we're launching right now, and we're actually doing it right at this very second, is going to take, the official training is going to start on April the 21st, but we're going to begin onboarding clients and setting them up with the various tools right now. And then we're going to start the training here starting the third week in April. The cost for this membership and all of the tools and all of the training I just discussed is this. It's $395 a month. That's it. It's cheaper than a single job posting on a lot of job sites. Please note, though, that this is a one-year commitment. We simply can't do anything with you if you're doing it for less than a year. We're going to give you the tools and the knowledge to succeed for just $395 a month. You just need to bring the commitment and the desire to be successful in this. So let me break it down to you real quick. It's $12.98 a day. For most on this call, and we did a review of the roster, $12.98 a day is going to be an absolutely insignificant investment for your office. You know what, it really is, because considering the upside reward for such a minimal investment, this is really what we like to call a no-brainer. I know if I had 10 seats to fill, as the branch manager survey did, and the gross production at stake that they have, that I would make sure I absolutely had the tools and the know-how before I did anything else in any recruiting campaign at all. I would make sure I had these taken care of first. But I want to say one more thing here. This is what we're launching at. For those today on the call, we're going to do this. We're going to give you a special introductory rate where you can actually take advantage of this exact same package for just $349 a month. It's still a one-year program, and we're only going to offer this through April the 18th. Reason is at the end of that period of time, we're onboarding and getting started with training our new clients, and we don't want you to miss the live training. So again, this is available through April the 18th, and we got a few weeks there to take advantage of that. Details on this can be found at www.branchpack.com. This is a special information portal we have. But even better, we have right this very moment, before we jump into the Q&A, is we have a special fast action rate. Now, these are not going to probably last beyond the Q&A today with the number of people on the call, but we're going to offer the first 150 branches that sign up for this the ability to do this exact same package for $319 a month for a year. So great way to save some money, the way you take advantage of this. And again, if you're ready to jumpstart your recruiting, you get the knowledge and the tools you need it, you're going to want to go right now to www.branchpack.com, and you want to make sure you enroll right now, and we'll go ahead and get you the $319 a month rate. So anyhow, that concludes my formal presentation. We have a lot of great questions here that I'm excited about jumping into, so let's get started on those. But I did want to let you know you can also download your white paper at www.branchpack.com as well. What you'll do is go to the page and just scroll down to the very bottom, and you can get your free white paper that's going to go in a lot deeper dive than I can do here on this call there. So that concludes my formal presentation. I'd like to thank each of you so much for your time today. We're excited to have you. I'm going to stay on here, though. You have the ability right now to ask questions via the chat pane, and I'm going to jump right into them. This is always the fun part, and I'll do my very best here. But let me go here real quick and see some questions here, and let's go right here to the Q&A. All right, let's see here. We did have a very good question. Yes, we have a small independent branch owner asking me this. How does a firm or a small independent office compete with 300% deals? You don't. And that's kind of my short answer. And let me explain. Somebody that's motivated by a 300% deal is motivated by a 300% compensation deal or some kind of a compensation package like that. Also, that's typically only offered to the very, very top financial advisors. A lot of times it's, the $1 million plus gross production. Most firms and a lot of independents aren't necessarily playing at that level, or more importantly, they're catching somebody that's actually done one or two of these before in the past, and maybe they're looking now to move into a different channel like an independent office or an RIA. But, yeah, if somebody's motivated by that, what we tell you is you need to pick a better target market that you can be more successful in. And, something, we'll help you message that as well. But, again, that's a very small universe that's offered that, but it does give you an idea about how competitive it can be. Here's a great question here. I have one of you out there asked about, how do you get around FINRA-approved communications? It's a good question. We try to do our very best. There's certain disclosures that you have to have. Obviously, every firm's a little different, in your recruitment communications. What we try to do is we certainly want to play in bounds and work with the compliance department to get approved text. But what you want to do, though, is we want to soften it as much as we can. And again, we want to message it, our advertising and everything we do specifically to, as Peter said, you want to message it to the ideal candidate you're looking for. And then, that will recruit other folks, but not necessarily vice versa. So don't throw a big wide net, but you really want to minimize the legalese and really get into talking about your branch, your culture, what you're ultimately trying to do. Is this on a job posting or any type of, and I say job posting because, again, it's one way you can do it, but really any digital communication is kind of the same thing. It's just a different trigger. You really wanted that person to reach out and raise their hand. They're not going to send you a resume. As most of you know, most of these financial advisors don't have a resume anyway, nor do they need one, to be honest with you. So that's not the objective there. What you're trying to do is give them multiple ways to engage you, so when they hit a trigger, and when I mean trigger is, they come in one day and payouts are cut, the manager makes them mad. They now go from being a completely passive candidate to almost instantly active, in a one-day period. And you've seen that firsthand probably, a lot of you, if you've done this a long time. So you're wanting to make it really, 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 really easy for them to do it. I cut this story out. This is a perfect example of why you do this, but I cut this out of the presentation because it's a little long, but I'm going to say it here. Sometimes the simplest thing can pay huge dividends. We had a wirehouse branch, and the only reason I even knew this is because we had them come and buy an ad, posted it for 3 days, and then they call back, and about a week later, they call back and say, we're wanting to delete our ad. And, that's really strange for a job posting, especially since they were looking for a financial advisor, that somebody would do that. They pay for it, but they weren't asking me for a refund. So I said, well, was there anything wrong with the service? I said, no, we already found somebody. So what happened is this person had run an ad, and they were in a market that was, I wouldn't say it was a big market. It was kind of a mid-sized, probably 200,000 population center. So they kind of knew all the reps in the area, but not all of them, but they posted a job just to see what they would get. Well, it so happens to be that 3 days later, a financial advisor pinged them. They actually had a telephone number in there, and the person called them. She said, how'd you get my number? He said, well, you had it in your broker hunter ad. And so they wound up talking, and 3 weeks later, he he wound up coming on board with the branch manager. And she indicated that it was funny because this person was 3 miles down the road, and they actually had their own independent office. But for whatever reason or another, this person said, I'm tired of doing this on my own. It wasn't really for me. All of this cracked up. I just wanted to go back into production or continue being in production and just worry about that and not running my own office. So they came back in and joined the firm literally like 3.5, 4 weeks later, actually tatted over or in the process of and transferring. And most of you might sit there and say, well, this is probably a small financial advisor, somebody that couldn't make it on their own in their own office. Not exactly. This person was actually $1.8 million in gross production, and they had about a little over $200 million in assets they brought over to that branch. And it was simply because of this. That branch manager didn't make it hard to find. When that person hit a trigger, they were fed up that day. That person called the branch manager, they engaged them in a conversation, and that's the ultimate end game. Once you're talking to them and you can develop a personal relationship, at that point it's in your hands and you've now got them where you can cultivate them along, but that's the key thing that you do not want to make difficult, and that's why all of this stuff needs to be messaged that way. So anyhow, back to that was a long story way of talking about the FINRA. We just try to work our best around them and minimize the legalese and to do as much selling as we can that they'll allow us. Okay, next question is, all right, is all of this included if I already have a branch pack? Yes, our previous branch pack members will receive this. What if your office has detached sites in other states? Would the membership include those? No, this is actually, and we'll talk to you individually about this, this is actually 4 specific branch offices. We've scaled it so we can include all of the training and everything. But if you have multiple offices, we do encourage you to go to branchpack.com. You can actually schedule a call to talk with one of our associates, or you can just email sales@brokerhunter.com, and we'll follow up and talk with you about some programs. But this is scalable if you have some satellite offices or something, and we can certainly talk about that. Somebody asked, is the FA list included in the branch pack? The FA list for a 30-mile radius around your branch is included in the branch pack. You don't get all the list. We can sell you that separately. But for branch purposes, beyond 30 miles is going to be a complete waste for you anyway. One of the keys to this is, this is for you, the branch office. There's no sharing or anything of this data, so this is yours. But we do ask folks to play within bounds, so to speak. So anyhow, so we're going to go here. Let's see, more questions. New disclosure rule about having to report over $100,000 and moving over. Do we think that'll affect recruiting? Absolutely, it'll affect recruiting, because what's going to happen here is this, and this is kind of an interesting demographic thing, and let me kind of paint this picture. Right now, and we indicated earlier, you've got 43%, and I've heard it's even as high as over 50% if you start taking 50-year-old reps and above, are at an age where they're retiring, at 12 to 16,000 per year. So you've got a couple of interesting things. A lot of firms are starting to work on this, but you have succession. And putting a real firm succession program in place, if somebody has a chance to either, one, formalize and pass off their clients to somebody else and be compensated for them instead of just retiring one day and having nowhere to put your book. But also, before this disclosure rule comes in, these people are a lot of times at the zenith of their career. I mean, this is the last move they're going to make. And before this rule comes into place, it's a lot easier to slide in under the wire before you have to explain to your clients why you got a $3 million bonus if you're a $1 million producer. So, yeah, we're going to see probably, now I know we're still some ways out on this, but I would see that if somebody was on the fence about making a move and they were a large producer and they know they would have to disclose this, that it might hasten them along a little bit. So you probably have a couple-year window, but that's kind of the area that I think a lot of recruiting's focusing on right now. But yeah, I think it's going to make a big difference, especially as it gets closer. I think you may have a lot of pent-up demand here, and as it, gets announced and we actually get the clock ticking on it, you'll see a lot of activity there. Somebody asked about working with a small BD versus branch. Absolutely. We have some different programs for you, but it's similar. So again, you'll just go to sales@brokerhunter.com and shoot us an email. Is it possible right now to purchase only the university portion? Not at this moment, although send me an email on that. We are putting together, and I know we had a lot of corporate recruiters. This training here is starting at the most basic recruiting, and we're getting pretty advanced towards the end, but we call that our basic training. We're actually putting together an advanced curriculum course for corporate recruiters and career recruiters that goes into a lot of more advanced topics as well. We're probably a few months out from actually launching that. But for right now, we're going to, at least for the near term, we're going to limit our training to just those that are on the Branch Pack membership. The training alone is worth the cost of the membership, to be honest with you. But this is the way we're going to launch it at the moment. So just, again, we can put you on the list and talk to you about it. Just email me at sales@BrokerHunter. Let's see here. Any more questions? Let's see here. We'll have a couple more here real quick. Somebody asked, can you pay for the membership up front? Absolutely. If you go to branchpack.com, you can actually see a link there that, for expense reasons, if you want to just get it over with in one shot, you can certainly do that, and we can take care of it that way. Are there any additional seats? We do provide, here's a way that you can do some training if you have more than 2 seats. We do offer, you do need to be on a branch pack, but if you have a huge branch and you've got 3 or 4 people that want to attend the training part, we do offer 2 seats with the branch pack package. We are charging additional seats of $100 a month, so it'd be $1,200 a year for the training for an additional person, and that would be per person. Had a couple emails here. Can we do it for less than a year? Short answer is no. We designed this because recruiting FAs takes time. We can't even get started with the networking or the training or anything. So consistency of effort is probably the biggest thing you're going to provide for you, and we're going to give you the tools to do it. But, again, the training itself, you would, if you did it shorter than that, you wouldn't get full benefit of that. So, we think, honestly, and you'll hear this from a lot of advertising experts, that start and stop recruiting or advertising is really a bad thing to do. You almost would be better off not doing it all than doing a start and stop. It's too important for most branch offices to take this approach. Couple other things. For those of you that are pressed with time, this is just a small sampling of what all we do. We're in the process of coming out with some add-on packages as well for branch offices. So, we're going to be coming up with things that you can do if you don't have the time or you're in a big market and you need help. Then, we're going to have custom branch services that are going to include lead nurturing campaigns, webinars for your area, advanced email services, direct mail. Really, we'll get into more of this during Broker Hunter University because it can get fairly complex. But, again, it's something we're going to be offering, and we'll do a deeper dive into that during training. Somebody says, we already have another database. Can that be omitted from the branch pack? No. We're bundling it all together. But if you don't want it, you don't have to have it. But what we suggest is, we've worked with every one of these list providers, is they all have slightly differing data. And so what we would say is, aggregate the two together, and you'll update your list. So it's all a prepackaged deal. Somebody said they missed the first 20 minutes. Can we give a quick update? I'll go back right now and give the 20 minutes. I'm kidding. We're going to send you, yes, sir, we can do that. We're going to send you a link after the call here with the full presentation, and you'll be able to have that and pass around your office as well. And then another question, what about recruiting new candidates into the FA role? Can you help with that? Yeah, absolutely we can. New FAs are a lot easier to recruit than experienced. So this one here is because the upside's so huge. You got to really pull out all the stops when you're recruiting experienced financial advisors. These people have such a tremendous impact when you hire them. But new FAs, absolutely. A lot of times on new FAs, you just, job postings, traditional search things work great, and we can certainly help you with that. If it's on a national level, webinars are wonderful tools as well. Here is a little note here on the power of a webinar to something to keep in mind for your branches as well. This webinar we had today had little over 800 registrants, I think, last count. And I think on the call during it we had close to 350 to 400 at any one given time. Webinars are wonderful tools, especially when you're recruiting financial advisors that are experienced, because as many of you know, you've probably tried to do open house events. Getting these people in the same room together is the hardest thing in the world. We know. We've tried to help people do it. It's tremendously difficult. Here's why, though. If you're in a smaller market, everybody knows everybody else is one problem you've got, so you're never going to get them to a physical event. They're even careful about networking outside of that because, again, small markets, even in a big town like Atlanta where we are, I mean, the top producers kind of all know each other. You're never going to get them in a room together. What you can do, though, is get them to webinars. And we call any of these types of things light engagement recruiting techniques, where you can actually have somebody come in anonymously or just give their name and an email and get them in there and let them hear your pitch. And what happens is, because even in a meeting like this, a lot of you I've probably never met before, but you're getting an opportunity to engage with them. They're able to hear your voice, find out a little bit about you before they take the next step. And right now, that is one of the most tremendous things you can do from a recruiting standpoint. And it's great, at the local level all the way up to the national level. We a lot of our webinars we have for our clients will have 350, 400 people in there. And it's a lot of people to be pitching at once. It generates a lot of activity. So that's something to keep in mind. But these can be done locally. One tip I was going to give in our training, but as you're putting together a local campaign, I'm going to use Atlanta as an example here. Let's say that this is creative here, but let's say you want to do you can get a Home Depot analyst or a Coca-Cola analyst on a call to do kind of an investment. For investment professionals only webinar, on, new initiatives or something like that. Something that would be of interest to FAs in your area where they would attend that's non-recruiting is huge, because what you now have is their email and their name, and you're able to start developing a relationship. Then you can go LinkedIn with them and see all of this builds upon itself. And over time, doing all of these things consistently generate tremendous lead flow, and that honestly is how you're going to win with these big producers. It's going to take time and doing these types of things, in addition to your old offline, which you all are very good at most of the time anyway. So anyhow, I've been talking. They're about to boot me off here. I'm at 56 minutes right now, so I'm going to take one more question. Is it better to approach an advisor with less than 200 to join a small, or one who's not considering to get their own OSJ? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think at a certain point, you may be butting heads with somebody that wants to open their own office, but not everybody does, just like the story I talked about earlier. I mean, some people just want to do their own production and not worry about the headache of running an office. And a lot of you, by the time you take on your own office expense and stuff, a lot of times it's just, financially it's not that big of an advantage to open your own OSJ. It really just depends on the individual and where they're located. So, but yeah, I think I see the most success that independent BDs have when you're an OSJ office yourself trying to do that is probably in that range right there. Also a note, that 100 to 250 or 100 to 200 production range, there's a lot more people at that level, so your batting average is a lot higher, and they're a lot easier to recruit because they're not getting deals. So you could take the deal thing off the table at those levels, and now you're recruiting somebody that's, you feel like has potential and up and comer that, you're a little more on equal footing there, and you can sell your culture and, your capabilities instead of a check. So that's going to be the last question I'm going to be able to take today. Again, I have recorded this, and we're going to send you out a recording link, and we're going to send you out details on how to download your white paper as well. But for those of you that want to go download your white paper, or more importantly, somebody that wants to go take advantage of the Branch Pack Fast Action program, you'll want to go right now to www.branchpack.com. You can go to the very bottom of the page to download your white paper, and you can get it instantly, and you can also sign up for the program right there. If you do have any questions, you can just email sales@brokerhunter.com, or you can schedule a call or an appointment on the calendar that's on that page as well. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up and give it back to Lynn here, and I appreciate everybody's time today and wish you a great rest of the day.